Celui-là, là? Je vais parler dans le micro. Hi everyone, I'm Pierre. I'm a software engineer at SOAR. Today I'm going to talk about layer 2s and layer 3s and why we consider using a layer 3 at SOAR. I won't dive into the technical details, but give more an explanation from a product standpoint why it makes sense for us to consider layer 3. Before going down the Ethereum layers rabbit hole, I'll give a quick intro to SOAR for people who don't know what it is. So basically, SOAR is a fantasy football game. You basically buy and trade NFTs that represent football players. So for instance, here you have 5 NFTs to compose a football team. With a goalkeeper, a midfielder, defender, and forward, etc. Once you compose your team, during the weekend there will be in real life sport games, and depending on how well your player performs, your card will get a score basically. So that's what you see at the bottom in yellow and green. And at the end of the tournament, basically, you can outscore the other participants, and the one who ranks better basically earns ETH and our player cards. One thing that is core to our product is utility, which is why we have a game. But also, what is very important is our marketplace. It's an open market where you can trade NFTs. I like to explain what has been our blockchain journey at SOAR. As you all know, blockchain evolves very quickly, so we had to adapt over time. So SOAR was founded 4 years ago in the summer 2018, and the product was launched first quarter of 2019, basically. When we launched, we started on a POS EVM chain, which was called Loom Network. It was a perfect match when we launched SOAR. Super low fees, only a few seconds latency. But in 2020, basically the validators started no longer validating the chain. So the chain was kind of dying. And we had to move away from that POS chain, which was marketed as a Ethereum sidechain. So comes May 2020, we basically decide to move to Ethereum mainnet. At the time, gas price were around 4 Gwei. ETH USD was around 200 USD for 1 ETH. So a mint was costing about approximately 20 cents of a dollar. But in 2021, ETH USD's price has skyrocketed. So did the gas fees, and we ended up paying up to $90 for a mint compared to the 20 cents we used to pay. That's not sustainable. Our mission is also to bring crypto to mainstream people. That means NFTs that are worth maybe a few bucks. So we cannot deal with $90 mint price for an object that only worth $2 or $3. And as for minting and trading is the same. It would cost $20 to $30 to trade a card. And outside of gas price, there was also settlement delays. On gas spikes, we would basically delay settlement by up to 24 hours, which is really poor user experience, especially for non-crypto native users. So that's why we decided to move once again, and we decided to build on StarkEx, which is a ZK rollup that is built by Starkware. So we did a migration second quarter of 2021, and we've been live on StarkEx since July 2021. And so we're going to see what's going to happen next. If I'll give a brief explanation of our current layer 2 setup. So our rollup rolls up to Ethereum. So Ethereum is our settlement layer. It's powered by Starkware, so that's what I said. It's a Validium rollup, so it's a ZK rollup with no on-chain data, which makes the rollup less costly. And one thing that is important, and it's that it is app-specific. So the only thing you can do with our rollup is basically mint and trade ETH, ERC20, and ERC721s. That's all you can do. And it can only be used by SOAR. We basically act as the sole transaction sequencer. So it's fairly centralized, but you have like a decentralized way of exiting the rollup without going through us. So we keep that self-custody aspect. So what are the benefits of our layer 2 setup? So first, it inherits the Ethereum security, which is key to us, security and decentralization. It's optimized for the application use case, so it works very well for our product. It has low latency, so we can offer settlements in order of magnitude of a few seconds. We have predictability around usage and fees. So we are the sole user of the rollup. So we won't have another project that does an NFT drop, or there is some DeFi liquidation going on, or a bull market that is not in our control. So we have full control of what's going through the rollup. And basically, we have a fixed cost of running the rollup, which is basically 2.4 million gas on a daily basis. What this means, what is super important, is that we have zero marginal cost. We can basically double the number of NFTs we're going to sell. It's not going to change the price we pay every day for transaction fees. And what this means is that our users, they never pay transaction fees. They don't know what transaction fees are. Like most of our people we onboard that come more from a fantasy world, not a crypto world, they don't really know about transaction fees. And that's really key to us. So we're pretty happy because we've reduced the friction to Web 2 kind of friction. So no transaction fees, no settlement latency. So we are quite happy with that. As I speak, right now we're going to launch MLB, which is Major League Baseball. So we're expanding into a new sport, and that will be done at a zero marginal cost. So it puts us in a very nice place if we want to expand our business. But, so there's like drawbacks with our setup. First one is composability. There's no composability because it's an application-specific rollup. So if you want to be able to do composability, you need to withdraw your NFT to Ethereum mainnet, which is costly. You don't have portability as well. If you want to move to other layer 2s, you have to go through Ethereum as well. And there's like no real ecosystem at our level. So there's some through Ethereum because of the wallets and all of that. But we have to build a lot specifically for our rollup. So for instance, we have on-ramp providers, MoonPay and Ramp Network. And basically, they had to do a custom integration with our rollup. But what that means for our users is if they want to buy crypto, they just pay by credit card and they get crypto directly on our layer 2 with no transaction fees either. But everything is custom, so it takes time. We don't benefit from like an economy of scale. Also, we have, NFT trackers are pretty important in the ecosystem. They basically give kind of an idea of how healthy an NFT project is, and they also have to do custom integration. With regards to composability, we'd love that our community would be able to generate side games, tools, maybe put on some lending protocols or use DAOs or whatever. I mean, there's lots to do. They are already very active, but today they do side games in a Web 2 fashion, but we would like to offer them with something more powerful, and that's why we are after composability. So what are the solutions? One first solution would be to basically, instead of rolling up to Ethereum, roll up to another layer 1, because Ethereum today is too expensive. It's becoming a settlement layer and has a roll-up centric roadmap, so it's not going to be a consumer a blockchain as such. So we could like roll up to another layer 1, but what is important is that basically your layer 2 inherits the security of the layer 1, of the settlement layer. Our beliefs are that the settlement layer should be as secure and decentralized as possible. It's the ultimate responsible for granting who owns what. TPS of a settlement layer doesn't really matter. And we also firmly believe that scalability is achieved horizontally. I mean, it's like anything in IT. If you want to, you cannot scale a processor speed up to infinity. At some point, you're going to have to scale horizontally. So our belief is we want something that scales horizontally, that is secure and decentralized, and that's basically Ethereum. So we want to keep rolling up to Ethereum. So another solution, basically, is to instead of rolling up directly to Ethereum, is to roll up to a, I called it a composability layer, but that would basically be a public layer 2. It could be an optimistic rollup, it could be a ZK rollup, could be Starknet, could be Arbitrum, any kind of Ethereum layer 2, basically. What is important is our rollup is a ZK rollup. So it has instant finality when you withdraw a token. So when you move a token from the application layer to the composability layer, it is usable right when you move it, right? If you use an optimistic rollup, you have like a 7-day grace period where you don't really own the NFT on the layer where you've withdrawn the NFT. So basically what this means is we can move NFTs super easily from layer 3 to layer 2. And by going on a public layer 2, we'll have lower transaction fees than Ethereum, but we'll still have like an ecosystem. So if you think of Arbitrum or Starknet, there is a broad ecosystem that is being built on those public layer 2s. So this is kind of the setup that we are looking into for probably 2023. And so what makes a good composability layer, so that's what we think makes a good composability layer, is security and decentralization is essential, because basically you're going to trade security of Ethereum with the security of your layer 2, of the composability layer. So it has to be as secure as layer 1. It has to have a strong ecosystem. Builders and users on and off ramp, centralized exchange deposits and withdrawals, bridges to other L2s and all of wallets and all of that basically. So we are looking for a public Ethereum layer 2 that is secure and decentralized and that has a very active ecosystem. Yeah, that's it. I'm open for questions if you have some.
So why should you go to a layer 3 instead of building on a layer 2 that already have the composability and so on?
Yeah, so this is what I try to explain, is we have a rollup that is app specific today. So it's very optimized for what we do, the core thing we do, right? Minting and trading, it does that very well. At a very low cost, we have predictability, we know how much we are going to pay. If we're going to build directly on a layer 2, we lose that predictability because there's going to be a fee market. It's going to evolve over time, right? You don't really control that. So we want for like the core product experience, which is minting, trading, that to be optimal and to be like Web 2-like for our users. withdrawing your token to layer 2, from layer 3 to layer 2 would be for like more advanced users, crypto users. Maybe you want to put a token in the DAO. Maybe you want a DAO to be playing the game. You'll be, you know, those kinds of things. So it's really having an app-specific optimal setup that does that very well, and but also kind of bridge to a more open ecosystem.
Thank you.
Hello. I would like to know if there's like an ETH maximalism going on, or if you are closely watching what DYDX has been doing, because they have been switching to Cosmos. Now, they are arguing that it gives them maximum flexibility by not paying fees and basically giving them composability and everything. And probably the second question would be, are you planning to move away from StarkEx at some point, or do you just plan to stay on layer 3 plus StarkEx, or just moving to like a completely composable layer 2 solution?
Okay, so that's a good question. We're not like considering leaving like the Ethereum ecosystem. Building on Cosmos is a lot of work. I mean, I think it's still early days of Cosmos. It's an interesting project, but it's early days in terms of like just if you talk stable coins, right? I mean, in our roadmap, we'll introduce a stable coin because for non-crypto users, having like 20% swings of their ETH balance on the game doesn't make sense, right? Cosmos today doesn't really have a stable coin, so that's one thing, right? So right now, we prefer staying on Ethereum. We believe that the ecosystem is stronger. Cosmos, you have to basically maintain your chain. So it's a whole other game, right? You have to think about governance, validators, and make sure you have enough validators to have decentralization that you have on Ethereum, right? So I don't think we are ready for this yet. We believe that today, like this kind of Ethereum plus layers gives us better security and a better ecosystem. I do believe that composability on Cosmos would be more native, but today the trade-off is that we'd rather have the solution I presented.
Thank you.
Hello. Have you already decided to use Starknet as your layer 2, or is it still in research?
No, we haven't made any decision yet. It's probably a natural candidate, especially since they worked on ZK proof recursion. So it means that basically you can prove on Starknet that something has been verified on StarkEx. So it makes it very powerful. So it's probably a natural candidate, but we haven't made any decision yet.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you very much.